Alright, these jerks played during a lesson I was teaching, so I couldn't watch this game. But let's look at game 7. Game 6 I didn't record all of, as you may have seen, but basically we can actually replay it with these cards because they kept their hands. But I thought in this position it looked quite dangerous for stuff, right? It looked like Turdz has this nice setup in 5 in response to 3, and stuff has to be specific, and stuff was specific. Although game records can pop open. Uh, which card did stuff play? Sorry. Stuff played in 8, 6, 7, 8, and 3, and this seems to have been enough. We can check the eval here. Yep, indeed, no wins. If there was a win, it would show up in green. Where he gives Turdz 5, but is cleverly realized A918 sweeps this endgame, and I gave Turdz 5, but that didn't set up Turdz in 8. This was enough to tie. Which brings us to game 7, where stuff continues here again. Turdz plays Vanille in 7, which was, I thought Turdz was going to play in 7 or 9, and he ended up playing in 9. Nice to see him switching up which way to attack. Note that this sets up 6886 in both 2 and 4. And stuff blocks the in-between square. And now Turdz has a lot of ways to think about attacking this. And I have no idea what I would have done here. I haven't looked at this game or anything. I just am playing it over for the first time. Like, where do you go? You can play 6886 and 2. And that sets up potentially lock in 5. The lock in 5 is always covered by unit in 8. Again, these incidental combos are so important. Turdz switched to lock, and it had a ton of use on the right side of the board, but is actually really vulnerable to Yuna on the left, because Yuna has the 9 and the 4 and the A and the 4 potentially covering locks 4 and 5s with combos in various directions. And so it's actually a card that lines up really dangerously, and it's pretty easy to imagine like something like this setting up 5. I don't know, maybe stuff doesn't have a great card for this, but something like this having issues here, right? This is pretty easy to envision coming out as a problem. Now here it's still fine, but pretty easy to imagine potential difficulties with that kind of move. That your setup for 5 is not as great as it looks. Now you could go 5 immediately, you have a capture there. This is always risky to do, but it does set up a same in 8, and stuff has had trouble setting up against this kind of card, so this is appealing as well. The 7 and 9, again, stuff doesn't have the incidental combos in his favor, but he does have something in 8, so Turdz has to be really careful there. Turdz notably also has the same wall in 6 that might be a saving grace there. And Turdz can also just play an 8. Now, which card would you want to put in 8? You might be able to get away with this. It does give Yuna 9, but you do have ideas in 5, though not the most comfortable way to do it. There's so many possible moves here. Yeah, so given that this game has already happened, we're not going to take the time to try to differentiate between all of them. But I think this is yet another position where Turdz has a pleasant position, and it is really difficult to pick out the specific best move. Let's see what the solver thinks. Alright, the solver says the move in 5 is fine, the move in 2 is fine, and all moves in 8 are fine. Everything else is terrible, but you'd expect everything else to be terrible. Turdz picks 3, 7, 9A, and 5. And what I want to do here is I want to check how many ties does each move concede. So this one gives up 3 ties. And there are 4 moves in 8. This one gives up 7 ties. That's a lot. This one gives up 7 ties. So far 2 is looking best. This one gives up 7 ties. Moves in 8, really not high pressure. I guess none of them set up 5, but this is a million ties. And what Turdz played, he went in 5. I've not checked this. 1 tie. Yeah. So I think Turdz has just really consistently throughout this found moves that apply really good pressure. And sometimes it hasn't been enough to win, but it has been consistently just really, really high pressure. So the first thing to note is stuff does have this combo, but I assume, so Turdz actually, this seems really clean. Yeah, what do? You just give up on the spot. You're down 7-3 with no captures, and they have potential same walls. And even if they, like, can't take the same wall, like, you're so dead here. Okay. I assume I'm not being an idiot here, and this is in fact dead. Yeah, it is. Okay. So you can't take your big plus wall in 8. 2 is threatened. You can't really put anything in 8, right? Because this is wombo combo 2. And this is covered. Lock is covering everything. So I pointed out that Lock's backside was kind of weak, but Lock is also getting all the incidental combos in its favor. Yeah, Lock covers everything in 8. That's devastating. So it's really hard for stuff to ever land anything in 8. So we did see there was one tie. You may remember what it was or be able to go back in the video. I don't remember what it was. So let's think for a moment. There's sometimes moves in 6, but it feels really hard to play something in 6. Like say you tried to say, okay, my cards are sweepers. 8, 6, 7, 8 can take anything in 2. 9, 6, 4A can take anything in 8. But I feel like you just end up down. Like for instance, say you take this way. Yeah, if you just count it out, you don't combo anything back at the end. I'm not sure that's the move. Let's have the AI show us. 6886. Is that the only one? It is. All right. Well, that was not the move I was saying. But we're going fast. I'm not going to get things right. That's okay. All right. How does this work? Oh, you have the same wall in 3. I totally missed this. Yeah, Lock doing work, right? So if you take this, the point is not that you can play something in 2. The point is you can play in 3. And that flips a whole lot back. Yeah, that's neat. Okay. So that kind of stuff's really dangerous. So 6 doesn't seem to work. Stuff ended up blocking 2. Which card would you block 2 with? And I did say I don't remember what the solver said. I know the solver said a move in 2. So which card in 2 is best and why? Well, maybe we'll play out the game and see what we learn. Stuff plays in 2. And if Turdz were to go the kind of obvious move in 8, then Turdz is up 6-4. But this ties because Yuna has Lock covered, right? Yuna combos back against Lock, so you can't take with Lock. This doesn't capture and Yuna takes it, and if you leave 6 open, Yuna captures back. So okay, 9A, 3, 7, and 8 does not win. What about going in 3? Probably Lock in 3. Do we have the same thing? Yuna in 8. Or Yuna's gonna manage this. And even though you have a combo here, oh no, the combo is good enough. Alright. You can just do it with Yuna. Because the only captures you can take back. Oh, because you have the same in 6. That's remarkable. Okay. So that's cool. Alright, so that doesn't work. So Turdz goes for 6, 8, 8, 6, and 8. Correctly identifying, like, 9, 8, 3, 7, and 8 doesn't work. And spoilers, Turdz wins this game, so I assume there's not a tie here, but let's figure it out. If Ayla, the problem is there's the same wall, flipping extra cards, and Yuna blanks at the end. And that is how the game finished. This was the conclusion of the match. I forgot this new solver thing does. Turdz wins, yay. That's fun, with an exclamation mark. What else is there? If Yuna's just walking into combos, you're dead. If you go in 6, you can't flip back from 3, so your Umberos in 9 kills you, if nothing else. This you also can't flip back from 3. And we're left with 3, but I think this same wall kills you. Yeah, because you don't combo back. And if Yuna here, then this kills you. Yeah, very nicely lined up by Turdz. And what I really like about this this move in 8, I mean, it's 4 moves left. Like, in a 7-minute game, you should certainly calculate this out to victory and be able to win reliably. But what I like about this is it had to turn down some appealing options, right? Like, you've been setting up for this same, right? That's like you played in 5 to play this same, not to like slide this random other card there. So I always like when stuff like that is figured out. And I think Turdz' move in 5 here is excellent. I wish I had gotten to see the game. I'd be a lot more invested in figuring it out if it was live rather than knowing the result after. The solver did say there was a solvent too. It has to be Ayla or Yuna then. I think it has to be Yuna because Yuna's the more redundant card. Also, a 5 facing out is just walking into combos because Lock covers that. But Lock does not cover the 6 facing out, which is why Stuff did it this way. I think he came really close to saving this. Because if this is the tie, then this was remarkably close. So the difference here is 6-8-8-6, we can play with an 8 up instead of a 9 up. At some point. Not immediately, because here we still lose, right? Here we still lose. But maybe we can do something like this. And because... No, that doesn't do it. Alright, where's my tie? Why is this different? Oh, is it because we can play 6? No. No, it's because we have coverage of the 9. Alright, I really should have just paused and tried to figure this out. But yeah, just Ayla here. Okay, that does make sense. But also the fact that I wasn't seeing anything instantly, not that I'm like super sharp calculator, but like says that this was like weird to figure out. The differences between 9649 and 8678, and you can see we saw in a bunch of lines like 964A potentially has this like combo potential landing near Lock. It makes a lot of sense to hold it into the hand, hold onto it in the hand. And the key difference was this 8678 can take the 9 facing up. And you have to do very specific calculation to get there. I don't blame Stuff at all for this. I think this was a hard game. Where I do think the difference was made is that they played 7 games, and in 4 of them, Turdz was winning. And in this one, he eventually converts the win. And again, almost no one survives being pressed seriously 3 times in a row. Like, insane defensive achievement from Stuff in this finals. But the fact that, like, game after game he was facing serious pressure, I think meant he had to make a bigger hand switch. And I don't know if it was available, but Turdz was so dominant in the, like, opening and early middle game. And maybe just Turdz is just, like, that incredible. But it feels like the hands maybe had to switch. Okay, let's talk a little about what they did here. Stuff comes back almost 20 years later, plays in his first major, and makes the finals, and makes a really fascinating contest of it, playing just fantastic defense in, again, what I think is a really, like, special and uniquely human way, right? Of continually finding ways where I have to give up something, what's the least I can give up, and the most I can get in return for it. And so while, like, the solver said there were wins, they were always really hard to find, and I was never calling them out in the commentary booth. In fact, the only person calling them out, as far as I know, was Seto called out one of them, but the others went by unnoticed, as far as I can tell from any viewers. So, really just tremendous defense from Stuff, and I would have loved to see, at least in one game, like, him get a good position out of the opening and see what could have happened there. But the best he ever got from the opening was neutral, and Turdz was just so good from neutral positions, just playing. Like, if you think about Triple Triad, like, there's so many ways you can break it down, but one is, like, how well do you do in neutral positions? How well do you do when ahead? And how well do you do when behind? And we didn't get to see Stuff ahead this series. We saw them at neutral, and it either stayed neutral, or Turdz got big advantages, and then Stuff defended really well. From Turdz' perspective, I think his early game was just phenomenal, and yeah, this is such, for me, a huge win for Turdz. I think this is his 4th title. I'm sure we'll look at some leaderboard stuff in some later video, but his 4th title. He has now, in the last 2 tournaments, beaten Delhi in this one, and gotten another win against Delhi, though he ended up losing that finals, because Delhi is just untouchable in finals. Though notably, Turdz beat Delhi, though somewhat dependent on close, but beat Delhi in a previous finals, giving Delhi his only loss of the finals. So he beat Delhi in a mostly closed finals. Then Delhi beat him 2-1 in an open finals, and then Turdz wins in the semis here. He destroyed Seto in the semifinals of that open tournament where Delhi ended up beating him. Just the no one has ever beaten Seto as convincingly. Seto may have been drunk for much of it, but like no one has ever beaten Seto as convincingly. This is not to take away from Seto. It's just to say like that's an incredible achievement to win multiple games there, including a replay of one of Turdz's wins. Just unbelievable performance. So Turdz has been on this absolute tear where he wins Cosmos, he finals Kefka, he wins Triad Wars 16. Turdz is, I think, almost certainly the front runner for Player of the Year, which is not to say there aren't some really good competitors, and is, I think, if you look at these games, especially from neutral, but also his defenses against Delhi in the semifinals, I think this is probably the best like quality of triple triad Turdz has ever played, and it's at a fantastic level, and I'm really really happy for him. I coming into the finals, I was going to be really happy for either player, and in situations where that's the case, I tend to want the player I think is playing better to win, and Turdz was controlling this finals and playing just fantastically. I am really excited to see what stuff can do from here. I think just as he said, like this proves if you were a good player back then, you can still be a really good player now. It took him like a little bit to get past the jitters, but he really just crushed it this tournament. His match with Smokes, I was saying after the Turdz Delhi match, that was the match of the tournament. But as people have pointed out, Stuff Smokes has a very good case for that. That was a real epic of a match, and he ended up coming through in that despite just incredible exhaustion on both players' parts. Wins a really convincing semis versus Vid, puts up this really good fight in the finals. Massive kudos to both competitors. It's so cool. Like, we've had like one moment in TT history before this where someone came back after an incredibly long gap. And I don't mean like a couple years, like, Kazi or Sujiro coming back like 4 years later to have a great result. But coming back like 18 years later is unprecedented. 8 years later was Broccoli's winning a TTAC run. But we've never seen a comeback from like this far out from playing actively, and just really proved for the record books that Stuff is one of the great triple triad players. And when I update my stats, I'm curious where it ranks him all time. It's probably going to be like 75th or something because again, he hasn't played many majors. But I'm excited to see it, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here. And for Turdz, this is how many players have ever won 4 tournaments. Now, Turdz's 4 tournaments are a little weird, but this one he really played. Like Vincent is a fantastic tournament win. And this one, he proved himself against the best, and he played at a spectacularly high level. And so I think this one and Vincent, for me, are the real standouts. Though Cosmos and Carver are wins as well. This gets him to 4 title wins, which puts him tied with... Does Great Sephiroth have 4? All right, we're gonna... I can't bring up Windows right now. Here, by the way, is the actual window you can see for the... that show everything? Hopefully that shows things. I don't know what's showing on camera. Loop? Okay, everything's okay. All right. 4 tournaments puts him, I believe, in 5th place all time. I think Seto has 5, Yojimbo and I have 7, and Delial has 8. And Turdz is now 5th all time in tournaments won to go along with another set of achievements. But I don't think it's just winning it. Because, like, being entirely honest, like, I don't count Carver the same as I count other tournaments. Because it was a weird format, and he had a really good match with Vialva in the finals, but there was no other, like, it was him and Vialva were the 2 players, right? He didn't have to beat anyone on the way. It was, like, essentially 1 round, and, like, it was a very balanced match. Vialva played great. And then Cosmos was a random and largely closed tournament, right? And while I'm going to value that somewhat, it's obviously going to be lower down for me. This one is very clearly his second best tournament win. And again, for quality of play, I think it was just fantastic. So for me, this is the one. I don't know what my stats will end up popping out because I haven't updated them in a bit. But Turdz is now fifth all time in championships and has a very good argument. Like, we've sort of had a top 10 that wasn't quite a top 10 for a while because one of Great Sephiroth, MC, Nightwish, Kamikaze, Koner, Slash of Time is, or Doc Evil, I guess, but most people would have Doc Evil top 10, is not in the top 10, right? One of those names is not in the top 10, and all of them feel like they deserve to be. And with some later results, Akiyama and Vid have been closing in on that group. And so you have a top 10 that is like kind of a top 11 or maybe a top 13, where there are 13 people who could very legitimately consider themselves top 10 all time. And I think now there's 14. And I think Turdz has a case that, like, he's a lot better than some of those. A lot of those are one-time winners. And for me, Turdz was kind of, this isn't meant to be insulting, but like a one-time winner with two, like, other really good results that aren't quite, for me, full wins. And now he has two full wins, which is as many as any in that group except Slash, with two other kickers that are really good. Like, it's a tremendous resume, and he played so well here. Okay, I'm just repeating myself. Congrats to Turdz, did awesome. Congrats to Stuff, did awesome. Great semifinalist too this tournament, and yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know what more content I'll have here, but yeah, wonderful play. I guess we'll put the final position on board to end the video. Turdz takes his fourth major.